This project is by Madison, Kenley, and Haley, and our misconception was that in fractions, the bigger number goes on the bottom. So this is a misconception because children do not always see fractions as a single quantity, but rather a pair of whole numbers on top of each other. So this leads to them thinking as fractions as ratios rather than parts of a whole. They then apply whole number thinking when comparing the two fractions and look at the size of the denominators, the numerators, or both. So this leads to bigger struggles. When dealing with mixed numbers or improper fractions, children will continue to struggle with the idea that the larger quantity or the bigger number is always the bottom number or the denominator. So some examples is a student may think that 1/6 is bigger than 1/2 because 6 is a bigger number than 2, or that 1/4 is bigger than 1/2 because 4 is also a bigger number than 2. So another example is that this student looked for which number on the bottom is the lesser quantity and assumed that that was the smallest number when putting the fractions in order from smallest to largest. So they show that they do not have an understanding of how the denominator shows how many parts make up the whole. Teachers reinforce this misconception by consistently using words such as smaller and bigger when referring to numbers, when in actuality, smaller is referring to a lesser quantity, and bigger is referring to a greater quantity. Teachers also reinforce this misconception by only showing students examples of fractions where the larger number is on the bottom and the smaller number is on the top. So how can we correct this misconception? When comparing unit fractions, students can use fraction blocks to show and compare the sizes of fractions. Teachers should explain that the number on the bottom means how many parts the whole has been divided into, and the number on the top means how many of those divided parts are chosen for the problem. Students also learn best when they correct this math misconception on their own. Number talks help students develop a number sense while thinking and reasoning like mathematicians. Children are asked to make connections and look for relationships between fractions, and thus are engaged in doing mathematics. Number talks have proven very effective when it comes to combating misconceptions about fractions. Ashley, a third grade teacher, mentioned on her blog that during one of her fraction lessons last year, students made the generalization that if the numerator is larger than the denominator, the fraction is greater than one whole. This generalization was generated by students through hands-on exploration of fractions, not by me stating the rule. So children are very capable of being able to correct their own misconceptions on their own. And here are references.